Q&A, 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 Q&A.
We're gonna answer your questions.
Yeah, keep going.
With our
Maybe I hear the
answers.
blues are calling.
Well, hi, everybody. Here we are. We're going to try to get this finished and recorded before Megan's water breaks.
Could be any second now. We've got a stopwatch.
Yeah. We've got your questions for Season 7.
I was hoping, can I do a thing? Can I open this episode? I have a thing I wanted to open this with. Something of a challenge, I suppose. Are you guys aware of the KFC jelly beans?
Oh, no.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, hey, boys.
Oh, come
Hey, boys,
on.
good to see you.
Oh,
So-
no.
In close to the end of last year, every morning at work, we have a short meeting, and one of my team members does a fact of the day. And one day she talked about KFC jelly beans, and I was challenged to eat them, but they weren't going to come out until like February. But sure enough, they came out, and I found them. And I did eat them on camera in front of the rest of my team.
Oh,
so now I want you guys to do that.
You pulled those out of a secondary holding container as if they are contagious.
Yeah, well, no, but they
Well-
don't reseal, so I needed to put them in something
Not
airtight.
just that, the smell.
Yeah, I
Oh,
don't
no.
I don't know
You can't smell the beans.
if this is real or not. I think it's my mind. But he has this bag in a bag. He undoes the little sandwich bag, pull these out, and I swear to God, I smelled butter.
Yeah.
Oh, damn, you can't smell the beans. Yeah,
you can.
yeah, the beans themselves do have a scent.
So also, let's just clarify, we haven't seen each other since like
3 months.
It smells like biscuits in here now.
early January. So this is Jake's reunion.
Yeah. So
Terrible prank.
There's 3 flavors. There's fried chicken, there's sweet corn, and there's gravy.
Oh,
I'll tell you what.
God.
Uh-huh.
I would let each of you just try one, but you can't both try the same one.
I'll let you go first.
Listen, who knows when we'll see you again? I feel like we have to try them all.
Okay. Yes. I love it. That's what I was hoping to hear.
Yeah.
Fuck you, buddy.
You
See if I
love
can.
fried chicken.
Oh, no. Oh, I'm dropping them.
Oh, God, one hit me in the foot.
It's gonna smell.
They've gotten away.
like
That smell is
like
never. We're not
gravy
going to
in
get
here.
our security deposit back. Like, why does your recording studio smell like butter?
it's going to like absorb into the sound pads.
I'm
Okay.
really upset.
So
right now.
I don't know. Jake, don't tell us.
Which one's which?
Yes. And that way we just have to. Let's pick the same color though.
Okay,
Yeah.
and see what we think.
Yeah. So because there's there's one that looks like uncooked chicken.
Yeah, we got kind of light yellow, kind of orangish, and this sort of speckled red. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah.
What
I
are we
think you're
going with?
gonna know which one's which.
I hope so.
Because
I
I'll
mean,
tell you that. Well, just you go for it.
I mean, I have a guess.
All right, which one are we? Just let's get which one are we
Okay,
doing?
Get this over
let's
with.
do the
Light yellow?
the palest one.
Pale yellow. All right, here we go.
Yeah.
Oh fuck.
Okay.
Not the right choice.
That has to be gravy.
I think that's corn.
Oh.
I think that's corn.
Did you try the
I'm-
wrong light yellow?
no, I think he got the light yellow.
Yeah, that's cool. That's
I
got.
might
It's cone.
I might be switching. The sweetness hit in the second half of it.
Okay.
Like, oh, this is sweet corn.
Wait until you've swallowed it, and then like 2 seconds later, you'll know if it's
Yeah,
corn,
that-
I think.
that
the
feels-
aftertaste on the corn was wild.
Jake, can you
Yeah.
put those back in the Ziploc, please?
Yeah, sure.
I'm
Okay.
so afraid of the one that looks like uncooked chicken.
You guys should have ended on the corn.
How could we know?
I'm terrified this is just a little pellet of uncooked chicken.
Okay, so
These aren't real. I designed the branding, and Jake made the made the beans.
these are the worst
broken-
chicken nuggets.
I broke into the Jelly Belly factory so I could steal the mold.
I hate knowing, too, that was probably the least offensive one.
Speckled red. Is that next?
Oh, fuck, I guess.
Okay,
here we go.
And the one I'm most afraid of.
Oh, that. Oh, that's gravy. That's gravy for sure.
It's very salty. It kind of reminds me of,
Oh.
I don't really know what gravy tastes like.
Apparently, because you thought the corn was gravy too.
We've had this conversation because I don't like gravy.
Oh my god!
I love gravy, and I'm having a bad day.
I can't believe
Was
you
that right?
opened
Is that
with
gravy?
this.
Is that supposed to be gravy?
I don't fucking know, man.
The red speckled one.
No, the speckled one is fried chicken.
That's
Is
what
it?
I thought.
Yeah.
Oh.
The light yellow was corn, so last is the gravy.
Okay. So the yellow is gravy.
The one that looks like gravy.
Yeah, it's sort of like a light brown.
That did not taste
a
like
gravy.
chicken to me at all.
Tass, hold yours up. Okay. Oh.
You did the worst one last.
Oh. Is that supposed to be gravy?
That's supposed to be gravy.
That is volcanic ash.
This is my impression of gravy. This is why I don't like it.
Oh.
Oh, God.
It gets worse every time you chew.
It smells horrible in here now. I've been you guys chewing and breathing. It smells atrocious.
It's so bad.
You're getting some of this.
You're literally gonna make Megan throw up. Picture notes. I didn't consider what a little box we're in.
That is so
Picturing
bad.
us breathing out cartoon clouds of gravy.
It's so bad. Oh my God.
That is not. There is nothing gravy-esque about that, even in the
I
slightest.
disagree.
Oh, I regret this.
It's very
because of the smell in this
it
room.
smells like KFC gravy.
When he was trying this on his call, I was sitting on the couch and I just listened to him eat these. And then he goes, "Oh God, no."
It's like a bioweapon.
Okay, now you have to do all three at the same time
Oh,
like a
God.
famous bowl.
No, you eat shit.
This is one of those days now where you're going to be aware all day that you cannot trust your breath for other people.
How is this still happening?
Oh, it's so bad. It hurts.
Can we turn one of these air conditioners to point out? Can we get a...
Yeah, you can hit the
Wind
reverse
tunnel.
button.
Can you really?
Yeah.
Oh, thank God.
Can you contaminate the rest of this building?
It's such a small space.
It's so bad. It's really so bad.
Can I tell you guys something
Sorry,
real
dude.
right now? I miss you so much.
God, I haven't laughed like this since the last time we were. Oh, it makes me so sad. Fuck, that's awful. So Jake, what made you choose to play Fate in general, and the Clockwinders specifically?
Okay, hold on. Let me take a drink. Let me calm myself. Let me wipe away my tears.
I'm drinking this Sprite.
It lingers so long.
Yes.
So bad.
It feels like while the Sprite is in my mouth, there's relief. But then afterwards, it's like the Sprite has pressed the taste deeper into my cheeks in the roof of my mouth.
Yeah, they're powerful. You want the rest of them?
Yes, I do.
Well,
He's got some people he does not
I
like.
have some enemies I need to beat up
Fuck,
with.
it's that gravy one. Jesus.
I've got another person I've got to sick these on tomorrow, so you can have some though if you want a handful.
No, I would do great evil with these.
Yeah. Okay. First question. You already read it.
I did.
What made me choose to play Fate in general and Clockwinders specifically? So I mean, we spent a long time deliberating what this season was going to be. And each of us kind of had like a thing we were interested in running, or a pitch, or a game system or a story or whatever.
And I think we've talked about that before, that like typically when it comes to picking a new show, everybody or the people interested will pitch a story hook and a game system, and then we'll all kind of discuss them or play through a little bit. That way we can be like, yeah, we like this, as opposed to just like, yeah, I like your idea, let's do it.
Yeah. So we had played Fate in a couple of instances, I think, at least in Fate of Cthulhu. And I found Clockwinders, I think on the Evil Hat website.
Yeah.
Like, I think I was looking through the stuff on the Evil Hat website, like, is there anything that jumps out at me? And Clockwinders was one of them. And I just really liked the concept. Like, I thought it seemed like a really interesting story and a really interesting world. That was what made me want to play it. It wasn't that it was Fate. The fact that it was Fate was kind of secondary. But I was interested in playing Fate because we had played it. We enjoyed it when we did Fate of Cthulhu. And I liked the idea of getting back to a system that had kind of like difficulty classes that I could set for actions. Like, that's one of the things that I always miss the most in PBTA, is like just, if this number comes up on the dice, it's a mixed success. There is no matter how hard the thing is, you can either say you don't get to do it, or if they roll a 10, they pull it off because you let them try. So I always like having DCs that I can select. Like, this feels like it should be pretty challenging, but not impossible. So I'm going to set this difficulty class high, but if you hit it, good job, you pulled it off. Everybody's still like clearing KFC jelly beans out of their throat.
Well, I didn't hear anything. I just burped and I almost blacked out.
I think story-wise, like, we all had ideas for characters we were excited about when it came to like the world, and we didn't know anything about the story other than, hey, there's this group, they're supposed to go do this thing, you would be part of this group.
I think just the idea of playing Fate again as well was kind of exciting. I really like the aspects part of Fate and being able to be like creative in the interpretation of them.
Next question. How much actual written adventure is there, and how much is left up to the group?
I mean, there was a fair amount of written adventure, like key locations and the general lore behind them was all established. So like, the swamp and there being a movement core in the swamp was written. The Wilders that you encountered in the swamp, they were mentioned. The Halogi Forges, they were mentioned. But details beyond that weren't really fleshed out. Like, it was explained that the Halogi Forges existed and what their kind of history was, but not what they looked like or what was inside of them, or none of the cores were described what they looked like. Like, there were no details given of this is what the core looks like or is shaped like or anything like that. Maybe a little bit of like, this is what happens when they activate it, or this is what it's hidden behind, but not a lot there. So it was sort of the broad strokes of the whole adventure were written, and then all of the kind of granular details were not. There was a handful of NPCs per location that were provided in advance.
The defunct cores, was that part of the book, or was that something you generated?
That was something that I generated. I mean, that was kind of something that you guys generated.
Yeah, fair.
Like, that was an idea that you guys kicked around, and I was like, oh, I like that. There's no reason that can't be true. So yeah, like, as far as what was left to the group, I mean, I'm always cool with a lot of, like, whatever the group wills into existence being true. I'm trying to think of specific examples. I mean, like, going on a tour de Fae was not part of the written adventure. So, like, learning about the Tengu societies and the Satyr societies and all that, like, none of that was in there. Are you suffering horribly?
You guys keep going. I'll be right back.
Oh, no. Is he going to throw up?
It's like the gravy jelly bean thickened my saliva into gravy.
I haven't felt like this nauseated
until I was back in your presence.
Since like the first trimester of just morning sickness.
Okay, we're back after a brief hiatus to try to solve this problem in the room.
Tass took a sojourn to get a candy bar for him and Rev to share, and a lemonade to try and wash all this down.
Yeah. And we aired out the room because it still smelled like bean in here.
Like bean.
I don't remember where we left off. I'm going to jump to the next one because it's related anyway. How much did the players deviate from the written adventure? So they hit all of the beats that were in the written adventure. It's not like anything got skipped, but a lot did get added. The idea of the like lost cores that were elsewhere in the world, that was not written. That was a deviation. It was something that they introduced that I liked and wanted to roll with. Meeting up with all of the Fae societies was not written in there. A little bit of detail about each of those societies was written in there, but not the idea that you would go like commingle with them and interact with them. It was just, I think, supposed to be like informative about if you encountered any of those people in the world, this is how they would behave.
Fun fact, Jack Mackerel, part of the written adventure.
That wasn't, Rad Dave wasn't, obviously. So yeah, I mean, like, maybe 2/3, 1/3 split, like 2/3 written, 1/3 not, 1/3 stuff that you guys came up with. What
about the, like, seeing the past stuff that Einan went through?
Oh, that was not written in there.
That was cool.
Thank you. The details around the Halogi Forges was, like, kind of sparse. And then especially when it ended up, like, that you guys were going to be separated, I never want to just, like, you'd be like, okay, well, you aren't in this one. As much as I say that to Taz, I'm like, well, you're not in this one because it's not the relevant part and it's a thing I didn't expect. So I wanted to come up with something for Taz to do. So yeah, I came up with all the stuff around Radigan, who also isn't a character that was written in. That was somebody that I made up.
Did it tell you in the book what the cores did? Or like, was there this is how I think this story wraps up, like written in if they solve this problem or if they don't solve this problem?
It didn't specify what, you mean like what each individual core did or like what they did as a whole unit?
I guess more so what I was asking is what they did before, or was the idea of them having done something before generated by us as well?
Yeah, the idea of them having done something before, I think was like, okay, so the story is written, the module left a lot of blank space, which is part of what I really liked about it, because it reminded me a lot of early Halo. Like, there's so much in the first few Halo games that you are vaguely learning about, like, the Forerunners, this, like, ancient civilization, and, like, these devices that you're encountering, nobody knows what they were for, but you know what you're trying to do with them now, but, like, weirdly, they recognize some people, like you are the same as what created them. Like, I love that shit, and this has so much of that going on. A lot of, like, nobody knows, but, like, little hints that there's something more than meets the eye. The whole concept of them, like, tidally locking the planet, that is what was written. Like, that's what they did. And I think there was indication that maybe that wasn't what they were made for, but it certainly wasn't laid out with any specifics. The idea of there being, like, another planet that exists in the same space transdimensionally and all that shit, none of that was in there. That is all stuff that we came up with at the table. And then, you know, like, each of the cores, like, having a function, that wasn't really written in there either. Like, you know, how after you activated the first one, like, the tracks cleared, you know, they powered back up and they cleared. Those were all just kind of things that I wanted to add to, like, supplement how you were getting from point A to point B, or, like,
Sure.
you know, like to facilitate what I knew the next beat of the story was going to be, so that it didn't just become like a needless bog down or slow down for you guys moving from place to place or beat to beat.
And it gave us, like, a sense of, like, I think if we had fixed it and then nothing happened other than, like, well, you know, it's fixed. Like, there's a sense of accomplishment and, like, oh, look, and it does the thing now.
Yeah.
What was it like to play a pre-written adventure as opposed to something GM created?
One of our first experiences, actually our first experience together after Earth Dawn, was playing through, like, really pre-written adventures. Like, there were story beats you could not skip. This thing was going to happen. This felt just more like someone gave us a sandbox and was like, hey, play inside of it.
Yeah.
So it was interesting because sometimes we'd ask questions and you'd be like, I don't know. Let me look.
Or
it doesn't say.
You don't know.
Yeah, or you don't know.
That was something that I liked a lot. Like, as kind of transparent as this game is with the players about what's going on in the story and aspects of, you know, what you're interacting with, the world itself and the lore was very, like, we didn't know, like, we couldn't tell what was created by Jake or in the module.
Yeah, absolutely.
It all felt very, like, anything could be true. So when we would start speculating, Jake would just say, I don't think you know. So we would know if this is something that we want to pursue, we can, because either we'll learn that it's not true or Jake will make it true because he's really great at fleshing out the world with character idea or player ideas.
Yeah.
And Jake, you play with us. Like, I have always felt like when I'm GMing something, I'm more like a goalie. Like, I can't get that image out of my head.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my style, where I'm more, like, worried about, like, do I have everything ready? But Jake is so natural with everything in play, whether he's a player or a GM. So he's just playing with us. And so it's like seamless of, what did he just fucking come up with compared to what's actually in that book? I have no idea. It's so much fun.
I think the thing that's cool about, like, these fate settings too, like, yeah, there's a story in here, but if we rewound and we each took a turn running this, it would be such a different story each time. Like, I don't feel like it's so strong of a setting in a pre-written story that it wouldn't be wildly different if we'd each run it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, the 6 movement cores would probably get hit by each of us, because those are the things that are in the book. Like, anybody running it is probably going to have you encounter those 6 things, or you know, if not, for reasons that were come up with throughout the course of the story. If you decided we're not doing that, we're deviating from the plan completely, and we're not going to the cores. I'm glad, Tass, that like you can't. I'm terrified always that it's like, oh man, it's gonna be so obvious the thing that I came up with versus the thing that's in the book.
No.
Oh my God.
I'm always afraid that there's going to be just a stark quality drop off.
Oh my God.
Well, and I think it's part of it too is that you don't hold any of it, whether you've written it or it's already written, as like precious.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Tass and I, like, if we have an idea or something's been established canonically by the characters, like, oh no, this thing is kind of precious, so I won't joke around about it. And you're very you treat everything equally.
Yeah, I try really hard I want to leave as much empty space as possible until it is essential that it becomes solid. Like, even at points where, like, you know, when we were talking about making the map for merch, like, even that I was like, I don't want to, like, because I don't even want that map to be codified yet, because if it's more interesting later that something is west instead of east, I want it to be allowed for that to be true.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, I try and leave everything as unspecified as possible, but I mean, yeah, you guys, like, and I understand you guys want fucking details. Like, you're like, I need to know which direction this thing is, and I'm like,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter though. Like, you know, the distance it is from you might matter, and in some cases the direction matters. Especially in this world, the direction mattered more because it's like the fucking sun exists on one side
You're
of the
gonna
planet.
burn up if you go in that direction.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, generally, I'm always just like, oh yeah, I want to leave everything like super, you know, nondescript, kind of ethereal as much as possible until like the moment that it's like, okay, this is the moment to lock this in where it's going to be the most interesting for now and for the future.
And I think, like, for me, I like having those details up front of, like, I don't need to know everything about a world. I don't want to know everything, but I want to know what are the truths. Like, what are the basic things that we know to be true going in there? And I think it being a pre-written module supplied just enough of that for us to kind of work off of, because I don't do a lot of, like, fleshing out my character beforehand. I much prefer to kind of do that in play as I discover who they are.
It feels like you want the codex that you need to solve the mystery. Like, Rev and I were talking about this the other day too, about a whole different like game and system and everything, about how without a tool to like solve something, we flounder a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I like solving mysteries, but also even just like the idea of, you know, like Jake was saying, like knowing what do we know, and especially in a story where a central idea is there is so much we don't know. Knowing what we do know, what's fact, and to have a character that's very like knowledge driven and like trusts in the facts, knowing those things like points on a map or whatever could help me be like, all right, well, if I'm from this area, would I know more about this, or would I care more about this? I think really, really helps. So having just some information pre-written, even if it's like you're using these cores for this purpose, they may have had some other purpose, but you don't know what it is. Like, that's so cool to just kind of know as a truth about the world. And then just to see how like we interpreted that, how Jake interpreted that, how Jake took our interpretations of that and applied it to the world. It was just so cool.
Jake, what thing did the players create or bring into the world that surprised you the most?
I think kind of on a broad scale, like and I should have seen it coming because it's you guys, the like acceptance of or willingness to engage with Ether and the Fae, like right out of the gate. Because like such a core tenet of the world is written is like, that doesn't happen. The people who do it are dangerous. You know, the places that it happens are seedy. But we're a bunch of, you know, monster lovers and shit. So it didn't surprise me that was your guys' mindset, but it surprised me that I didn't foresee it and had to kind of adapt on my toes. I felt like I didn't prepare for that eventuality. So I was just like, well, in this world, that doesn't happen. That's one of the truths of this world. And then I was like, oh wait, it's happening. Oh God, it's happened. And so on a smaller scale, slightly, then like honing in from that, how much of your guys's backstories or like character details, or like when pressed for details, like how do you know that, or where did you learn this, or whatever, was related to the Fae or to Ether, that sort of then built on, okay, this isn't just becoming true right now, this has been true because this is in your past. You learned this from exploring ruins or whatever. You learned this from an elf that you met, like that kind of shit. It's like, all right, well then the fundamental rules of this world aren't what I thought they were when we came in here, because there is already more crosstalk than the scenario accounts for. So yeah, that was very cool, but it kind of threw me for a loop right out of the gate.
Jake, what was your favorite thing that you invented that wasn't in the book?
It's hard for me not to say Rad Dave. Rad Dave zipline tours.
Is it only because he has his own merch now?
Yeah. Oh God, I'm so excited.
He's more real.
Yeah.
He's more real than many of us.
I struggled. I almost made you a Rad Dave mini.
Oh, I forgot to tell you. I dropped my Callahan mini on the ground and he shattered into pieces.
Whoa!
Yeah. Like one of the Hero Forge like painted prints. I don't know what they're made of. I don't know if they're resin prints. It must have been something fragile, because I dropped it on a hard floor and he just broke into 5 pieces and I like lost 2 of them instantly.
Huh.
So I'm gonna need a new one.
Yeah, all right. I'll remember that.
That makes sense, because it took me, they shipped the Sayer one to me 3 times before he arrived unbroken.
That's
Wow.
wild.
Yeah. Was Wazine in the book, or did you make up Wazine?
No, Wazine was in the book. Wazine was one of the early, like, he was in the swamp. He was Arc 1. He was one of the early people who was in the book. And so, like, one that I had really had time to kind of get a handle on, like, because I had gone over the beginning part of the book a lot in advance. A little bit of his attitude was not
Was Jake?
as
Bullshit.
but he was supposed to be kind of like hot-headed, like short-tempered and volatile and shit like that, but you could win him over very easily if you played along with him. So like that I felt like went pretty much as written. Like he wanted to play a game and you guys agreed to the game really quick, and it's like, okay, well, just like that, like per his aspects and his lore, you're cool. And unless you do something else to piss him off a lot, like he'll flip back on you. He's not ride or die for you now, but you guys didn't. You fucking played his games constantly. So it's like, all right, yeah, Wazine loves you.
And then he killed the boss.
So good.
I love him with my whole heart.
The other thing that I thought was cool was the glass cathedral, the crystal cathedral.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, those, like, the other cores weren't a thing. That's not in the book. We were talking about going, all right, well, they're some of them are Nightside and some of them are in the Burnt Lands. And we were going to go for one of the Frost ones first. And I was like, okay, well, I want something with like a fucking ice theme then. And as somebody had pointed out, it's like, well, this wasn't always ice. So like, why was this? And I was like, yeah, it wasn't always ice. This isn't actually ice. It just looks like ice. Like I was pleased with that. I feel like I could have done a better job with like what was inside of it. I feel like I could have made that maybe a little more interesting.
You
or-
filled
or
it full
more
of
challenging.
ghosts.
It was so rad, and all the music stuff. And no,
Yeah.
it was so good, dude.
Well, okay, good. But yeah, I thought that the bones of that idea of like a thing that is in the ice and appears to be ice and isn't, but is equally fragile. I was proud of that.
Yeah, it's cool.
What did the players make true about the world that deviates the most from what was pre-written? We've touched on some of this already. Probably like just the nature of relations with the Fae and with Ether and the existence of other cores. And then kind of just like that there was another purpose and what that purpose was, what they did before.
I thought it was going to be Ether Beaver.
Yeah, because I remember having that conversation, and I feel like part of it came about because of a misunderstanding that I had from the book of like the idea of Ether corrupts. But on our character sheets, all we had was Ether sacrifices nothing without a cost. Like Ether corrupts wasn't something that was on our character sheets, but maybe was in your book. And I was like, I didn't know that. Like, I don't think I've gone down this path if I knew it was going to make me evil. And so then we had this conversation of like, well, corruption could have some other meanings. How do we navigate this story-wise?
Yeah, I think that was in like So before we started, I gave you guys like kind of the first few pages of the Clockwinders module that were like a player's handbook. And I think that's somewhere in like the flavor text of those first few pages. It's not like a bullet point or a header, but I think just somewhere in one of the paragraphs, it says something like that. Like all who touch ether are corrupted by its power or something like that.
Yeah.
To that end though, I mean, another thing that wasn't written in was the idea that ether has a will. Like,
oh, sure.
That's not something that's written into the book at all. So the idea that we kind of came up with that throughout gameplay of like ether corrupts because you're doing it wrong, like because you're hurting it, you're making it do something it doesn't want to do. If you are on the same path that the ether wants to be on, it doesn't hurt you. That is not something that was written at all.
Well, I think we kind of arrived there partially through the idea of like the Fae use ether, and they're not all like evil and corrupt, so there must be like a way to not have that happen. Otherwise, it's just, like if you're a human.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's another thing it's not super explicit in the book, but like technically, I don't think all Fae use ether. Not. I think they're all kind of like ether kissed. Like they all have like the magic in their blood or whatever, but they aren't all like active ether users by any means. And I think the world as written kind of wants it to be like, no, all the ones who use ether are bad. But just based on your interactions and where we went with the story and stuff, that didn't prove to be true. Like some of them are like, I was like, this is a fine, likable person and they're smart and they've got a handle on it. So how?
What did you like and dislike about playing a longer form campaign in Fate? How did it compare to PBTA for you?
I think the thing that instantly pops to my mind that we encountered was, Jake, you said you like having the ability to set a difficulty level, but as characters get higher and higher level and get more points, you made a joke even at one recording like, I guess a 6, because it seems dumb to have you roll it if it's a 2. Like that you had to set the difficulty numbers higher just to make it interesting.
Yeah, that's something, before like before leveling up for a while, I didn't think about in advance. Like it gives you a table of like, from -3 to +8 or whatever. And, +8 is like a legendary action. And before we ever played, I was like, that's plenty. Like,
yeah,
okay, an 8, that's a high number. That'll be hard to do. Perfect. We're covered. And then as we were like progressing and leveling up, I was like, oh, we are rapidly approaching where 8 becomes irrelevant.
Yeah.
Like in like D&D and Pathfinder and shit, you can set whatever fucking number you want. It's like, okay, it's a 40. Good luck, idiots. But in this, knowing that I had an upper tier, because like, I don't know that there's anything saying I couldn't have set something higher than an 8, but
it would have been harder than legendary.
And I was like, I can't justify that. Like I can't.
Impossible.
Yeah, I feel like this game suffers from the same thing that a lot of games with like leveling up mechanics can. And there's a term for this. It's like advancement illusion or something like that, where, D&D, Pathfinder, whatever, you have very low stats, you fight a kobold, it might be a tough battle, but then you level up and you get better powers, but so do the enemies. Like, you're always scaling up anyway. And so this is just kind of a different flavor of that, I guess.
Yeah, I should go back through and look. Like, I don't know if I was going to estimate what like level the module expected you guys to be by the end of it.
Sure.
I mean, because obviously there aren't levels, but like how many advancements did it expect you to have based on like the hardest boss in the last place? The dragon lady. Like she was fairly powerful, but even so, as written, marginally more powerful than you guys, if at all. Like you guys might have outclassed her in reality. I had to buff her to make it interesting, like to keep to keep it from just ending super quick. I had to buff her to give her some extra shit so that she would be survivable and you guys would have a more interesting challenge with her. I mean, it seems like just you guys, like, and that's something that I think not having like a hard set level system in Fate made a little more difficult. Like in a Pathfinder campaign, what level the players are supposed to be at in each book, within a range, what level the bosses are, generally what people are capable of at those levels. But this one just being like, you guys have advanced 4 times and this character is just, they have the stats that they have as written. It's hard to say like how balanced you are against them until the rubber meets the road.
As far as what we liked about playing a long-term campaign, I think having aspects that originated in a certain situation and being able to kind of call back to those in a new perspective after like going through a journey and having a new outlook on the world or the situation you're in and reinterpreting those aspects is just really cool to have that opportunity.
Yeah, and like the category of, because I think that was unique to this too, like our I don't know if skills is the right word, but like the little categories of things we could do, and like getting better as a, let's say I'll say like it with my mechanic abilities, and having that translate to everything mechanical as opposed to something, another system where it'd be like, well, no, you're good at this specific type of mechanics. It was like, no, you're getting better as a whole was really nice.
Yeah, I like the degree of interpretation that this affords and the degree to which you can, I'm trying to think of the word too, like, you know, kind of take this and spread it out to apply to other nearby related things.
It's a little more malleable.
Yeah. Yeah, I also, I mean, I love aspects. It's hard to come up with them in the moment sometimes.
Yeah.
But I like the freedom that they afford and the creativity they encourage in how to come up with them. And I feel like, I mean, I think even you guys gave me shit sometimes about that I'll let you get away with murder on whether a aspect should apply or not. And if, you know, you say something funny enough or you talk long enough, I'll probably let it happen. But I mean, there were a lot of instances where like you guys were like, can I invoke this? And I was like, you know, just in my head, I'm immediately like, what the fuck? What are you talking about? Like, how could you possibly? But I'm like,
sell me on it.
Yeah, sell me on it. And then you fucking do it. And I'm like, that's genius. Absolutely. I love it. And I'm glad that this happened.
I actually remember the first time I played Fate, and I had only played like D&D and Monster of the Week beforehand. And I was so confused about aspects. They were written on like note cards and put in the middle of the table. And I had to keep having it explained to me, like, how do I use these? And then once I started understanding it, it may not have even been that game. It might have been when we first played Fate, because this was like before I was even on the show. Realizing that, like Jake said, that creativity of being like, this is a truth. Now, how is it true? Is very, very cool to me.
Oh, I think I have something I want to say about this, but I think it has to do with the next question.
Okay, yeah, because that question there kind of had two parts, and it rolls into the next one. How do you think Fate compares to PBTA for narrative-focused storytelling?
So I've been thinking about this a lot, and I'm so glad somebody asked the question like these two together like that, because I think I'm the outlier here from what you guys were just saying. I don't really love the aspects and all of that personally. And I was trying to figure out why I don't like them. And the thesis statement I think I have on this is that I just want to play the game and I don't want to rules lawyer every action. And I think it's interesting that Fate has these, but like I look at us as a table, as like the four of us playing together, and it just feels to me like aspects are just taking what we all do naturally together anyway, slowing it down and making us just say out loud, this is a part of the world. Whereas in any other situation, you know, in Coin and anything else, a situation would just arise of like, you know, sure, the quote-unquote aspect of the situation is that it's very dark and there's thunder and, you know, it's difficult and blah, blah, blah. And Jake wants to, you know, take a shot at somebody with his magic wand. And instead of breaking it all down into different aspects that make this or that possible, like Rev would instinctively just be like, yeah, you can try this. But then he would know that the level of success, even if it's a full success, it's like, well, I know because of all of this, here's what you're going to get out of this, both in a full success, a mixed success, a fail, and so on. So, like, I just feel like we already were very good at doing aspects, and why we slowed down a little bit with them in Fate is just taking what we did naturally and going, all right, we have to put a name on this, and then we have to rules lawyer it before any action can actually happen. And I just personally don't like that slowdown. I do think that that can be very interesting in some cases to, like, show the audience that and give examples and, like, you know, let them kind of see that. But just as a player, I just want to do it. I just want to do the thing.
I totally understand what you mean. I think that's absolutely fair. I would say I also prefer kind of that Powered by the Apocalypse, like freedom to just kind of world build as you go. The thing that I think is cool about Aspects and Fate is like, I mean, it's almost as if it's a different game, you know? It's like you are still world building, but you're kind of putting yourself in a box and then saying it's like just adding a level of like challenge to it of like, I'm in a box and I've got my little like levers that I can pull. How can I pull these levers in the way that I want to go in this world?
Yeah, like I like the aspects and stuff, but I personally prefer Powered by the Apocalypse, I think, because Fate feels to me almost like when like you were doing math and the person was like, you have to show your work.
Yeah.
As opposed to just being able to give the answer.
Right.
And it, for me, and there's a question about this much later on, there was so much more out of character conversation about how does this work? Does it work? Versus, I'm going to do this thing. Yeah, roll these dice. It worked. You know, that turns into a much longer out of character conversation. And I like staying in character as much as possible.
I think that show your work thing is really interesting because it is that, but it is also a level of like, you can argue your way out of it. Like it's not math where you have to straight up show exactly how the answer, you know, you find the answer. It's like you're in a debate. Yeah. And it's like, okay, how can you either defend what you're trying to do or persuade the other person? And I mean, as long as you're the kind of person that is willing to accept when the thing that you're trying to do isn't working, then it's very fun. Like I love arguing with Jake because I know that one of us will be like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, you're right.
I see. I see what's happening here. And we both know that we'll get there.
I think that like we didn't even use aspects as much as this game wants us to use aspects. I think,
sure,
like,
yeah.
Like to your point, you know, the thunderstorm example, we didn't use a lot of like scene aspects and situation aspects that it would normally want you to. Like every fucking room you walk into should probably have like a aspect that is cold and dark, or aspect that is, you know, whatever, lots of windows, like all that kind of shit. And yeah, we are just so like attuned to that already that I didn't introduce a lot of aspects when it seemed needless. And if you invoked something about invoked in quotation marks, you know, lowercase I invoked something about the environment, to me that just kind of affected maybe the difficulty of what you were trying to do, as opposed to you getting to spend it to increase your role.
Well, and we wouldn't have to spend it, right? Because don't scene aspects get a free invoke?
Oh, it's been, I don't remember.
It's been a long time. But I think that was another thing too, that like so many invokes that had like one free invoke on top of, you know, our leveling up, it just would have made things like way easier and then taken more time to do.
But what I like about the aspects is, as far as like character aspects go, or scene aspects, I guess, like one, something to fall back on if you're not sure what direction a call should go. You know, like if it's like, oh, can I do this? Or, you know, is this thing true or whatever? And I'm like, if I'm kind of waffling, being able to look at the aspects and go, all right, based on the fact that this aspect exists, that helps me make a ruling here. And then the other thing I like about them, like Megan is saying, is like, I like that they allow you to like argue, like to surmount something that, you know, you might not have otherwise been able to if you didn't have an avenue to open up the argumentation. You know, like you might not just want to, in PBTA, if they're like, yeah, I don't think you can do that, you might not just want to go, well, but I wanna. And you're like, but in this, if it's like, I don't know that makes sense, you go, hear me out. This aspect exists and this thing is true. Can I invoke that? And it's like, okay, yes, you got me. Like, I like that. I like the power that it puts into the player's hands to change the course. And expanding on that, that's a huge part of why I think this isn't as good for narrative storytelling as PBTA is, because you guys have so much power to force something to happen. Like it's interesting because, like, you know, like I said, PBTA, if you roll the right number on the dice, you succeed at the thing, you know, regardless. But if you don't, you don't. With very limited resource to change that. You know, in Monster of the Week, 7 times over the course of your character's life, you should be able to make that not true. And in this one, it's just fucking every time. Like, you guys had so many points, you know, I mean, way early on, like Rev shaking his head at me because he was like, I was like, how often do you want fate points to refresh? I was like, at the end of every episode. It's supposed to be at the end of every session. I was like, I don't care if you guys have a little extra. And then it's like, I should have cared probably because it trivialized
We got
a lot.
some questions about that later too.
Yeah. There's at least one other game we've played that I feel like that, where there's a point where I'm just like, you guys are just gods. Like there's almost no fear anymore, because when there's that expenditure that you can use, I don't love it, honestly.
Well, I think that comes down to the GM. I think that's something that we noticed as we played for a while, where Jake was like, I need to throw more at you guys. I need to make you use your resources. Because then once we start running out, then we have to be very strategic about the choices we make.
Yeah, that's fair.
It was just, we set it up so it was almost impossible for him to, he could never outspend us because we were ahead of him.
Yeah, unless we had multiple
4-1.
encounters.
Yeah.
Like, if we had enough encounters per episode, I could outspend you because my points refreshed every encounter. Yours refreshed every episode.
Yeah.
But we tend to not.
Well,
we are
because of the conversational elements that have to happen in an hour-long episode, it would be almost impossible to have 2 encounters.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to the point where when we're taking gag stunts just for...
That's where at one point I went, Jake, is it too late to adjust the fate point thing? Because they're taking shit just to laugh about it.
But I love that.
Yeah.
Like I get it. If I wasn't me, like that's where a lot of this I think boils down to. Like Tass's issues with the system and the things we don't like, whatever. Like Fate isn't really made for us exactly, huh? Like we are not the target group for Fate. I think we still had fun and we did a good job.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
because it was not a story about will they succeed. It was a story about how will they succeed.
Yeah. Like it's there is a different group, a different style of player that this game is perfect for. We're not it for a couple of reasons. But it's still fun. It's still great. But yeah, like just if that group would have more regretted giving you too many fate points too often than I did. Because half of what I want out of a game is for you guys to be laughing.
Yeah.
Is for you guys to be doing stupid shit that you think is fun and funny.
Yeah.
And that is what I am trying to facilitate. So,
I mean, we have fun eating awful food.
God. It is, I think, and that might even touch on it too. I think that even in the name, like, I think Fate is a game about will you succeed? And we did not set it up to be that. It very much for us was a how will they succeed? There was never a question, I don't think, with the amount of refresh that we had and all that stuff.
Well, and then as level up and take advancements, we could lower the amount of refresh we would get. So that's kind of like went hand in hand of like, Tass and I taking good cop, bad cop and being like, okay, well, I'm taking more cool stunts. I'm giving myself the ability to do certain things that I wasn't able to do before at the detriment of how much refresh I have, but that still didn't matter too much.
Yeah, because sometimes it wasn't even spending to reduce how much you had. It was spending to not get another one.
Yeah. It was basically taking the one you just earned and immediately permanently spending it on like a stunt.
Yeah, like one of you did do that once where you got rid of, like, I think Tass started with 3 and bought 2 stunts so that he went to 2.
Yeah, and I ended up with that as well. Yeah. So it was like, because you couldn't get more than 3.
You could.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys, that's when you guys took 2.
Oh,
Yeah, that's why we took extra stunts
Didn't
sometimes.
realize
was
that.
Yeah, I had
because-
a whole back page full of stunts to stay at 2.
No, no.
Yeah, each time you advanced, if it was a degree of advancement that earned you a point of refresh, like there wasn't a cap on that. You could have been taking additional refresh or you could spend it on stunts.
Yeah, because that was the time that you guys took 2, was that it dropped you down to 2 instead of, if you'd taken 1, keeping you at 3, if you'd taken none, moved you to 4.
I thought it was just you could spend a refresh to take a stunt.
But you also got a refresh as a reward that you could then immediately spend as a stunt.
Yeah, there were a couple of times where I was like, oh, do I want my 3rd one back? Because I'm struggling. But then I was like, no, don't do it. Don't do it.
And I love you for that.
So instead, I had 7 in shoot. This is an interesting one. Having played so much PBTA, was the absence of the mixed success noticeable to any of us, players or GM?
I thought so, because I felt like the tie wasn't comparable. to a mixed success.
I think the tie was as comparable as this system got to a mixed success. Like it still was like a yes, but.
Yeah.
Well, on some of the actions, a couple of the actions, it was just
nothing bad happens.
Yeah.
Well, and I think Rev in Coin in particular really set the precedent where, like, rules is written in, Monster of the Week in particular, you can as a GM just say it's this.
Yeah.
Here's what happens. But Rev was really awesome about, like, I'm coming up with some options. I'm gonna mix this up, and so we've kind of adopted that as a group, and it's fun.
All because I misunderstood the reading. I will never forget the first time Michael Sands was on the show, and he went, "You're doing too much work."
No, but it is. It's so.
I like it because, again, for me, I that's a level of control of the narrative to give the players that I don't have as strongly as Jake has in other areas. Like, we each have our place where we're like, oh, here, this is the thing I can gift you that is instinctive to me.
Yeah. I'm not good about coming up with the multiple options for mixed successes. I usually do, if I'm running PBTA, I just give you one. Like, maybe two if I've got a couple good ideas, but I usually don't. So it was easier on me not having mixed successes because I didn't have to come up with them. And touching back on the idea of, like, the difference between groups, with us, I also feel the freedom, like, you guys aren't going to be upset if you eke out a success, so I kind of make it a mixed. Like, I know I can do that with you guys. Like, if it's like I said a difficulty of 4 and you got a 4 or a 5, that if I still introduce a little complication because you just barely hit it, like, even though mechanically it was a full success, you guys are like, cool.
Yeah.
So,
that
like,
makes sense.
I could still do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of liked not having a mixed success. It's more challenging for me to mechanically have to come up with those than to, based on our table atmosphere, have the freedom to come up with them as it makes sense. How did you folks keep track of all the aspects and invokes?
Post-its.
That was my one job. There's an outtake for that, actually. I listened to them the other day. Man, I had different colored Post-it notes, and just every time Jake said something, I wrote it down and handed it to the person. Megan also kept track of them all in her notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used my tablet, and every time an aspect was created, I would highlight it a certain color, whether it was an aspect or a boost, and then put check marks next to it about how many free invokes we got so that we could look back and say, like, if Rev had something on a Post-it note, we could say, in what situation did we get this? And then when they were invoked, I would go back and, like, cross off the free invokes and try to keep track that way.
Yeah, every Post-it note had the name of the aspect and a number of tally marks for how many, like, free invokes it had. And then, yeah, they just, like, lived at various places on the table.
And then the funny ones we just remembered and used a lot.
Yeah.
Of all the boosts, aspects, and invokes, what % do you think were left on the table unused?
Boy, not many. We had a few, like, boosts and stuff that did just sort of pass without us getting a chance, but, like, we were pretty good about milking those points.
Yeah, I feel like probably we played too generously with boosts, again, compared to what the system wants or expects from you. I think, like, we let boosts persist longer than mechanically they're supposed to, or be invoked, like, later in kind of roundabout ways that it's like, yeah, so I guess technically that's still applicable, and therefore, sure, you can use the boost. Yeah, I think all the ones that, like, you guys had for your characters, all the ones that we came up with through moves, those got used pretty good, like 95% hit rate, probably.
I would say the bulk of the ones we didn't use were in the first 2 adventers.
Yeah, probably. But just while we were still getting our legs under us.
Yeah.
I think the majority of the ones that didn't get used were ones that belonged to NPCs. Because there's just a lot of non-rollable actions from the NPCs, like, based on the things you guys did or the ways you interacted with them, it never came to a dice roll, and therefore it never came to an invoke of an aspect. Like, the ones you fought, most of their aspects got invoked probably over the course of their rolls, assuming I had points to invoke them with. But the ones you just talked to, yeah, they probably never came to fruition, other than just how they informed who that character was and how they interacted.
All right, so what was your favorite name of an aspect created during the campaign?
Raddest jam band in town.
That was a good one.
You used that a lot.
I did.
I think My Boy Bitey.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I liked My Boy Biter.
I meant to bring my tablet so I could
I know.
look back through them, but I forgot.
Those post-it notes are all gone.
Yes, they are.
No.
Many of them still exist. They're just in my folder that is not here.
You've said the two that I remember.
Yeah, this is tough. Without having those post-it notes
Yeah.
in front of us, it's hard to remember any of these.
But we can all agree, there were some good ones.
There were some good ones. And
Cleverly worded.
why don't you all tell us?
Oh, okay.
What did you
Yeah.
think?
I thought you were going to say, why don't you drop some in here from
Yeah,
previous-
I was going to say, and Future Rev is about to read a bunch of them off.
Let's all gaze into the middle distance for the montage. No, why don't, the listener, you tell me. Why don't
Yeah.
you post in the Discord what your favorite aspects were? Offloading the work.
I think there was one, I can't remember what it was called, but the one where I got supplies for going south.
Oh, like
Into the cold.
equipped for the Frost Sea.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. We use that a lot. That's a good one.
Coming up with the names was difficult. To make them generic enough to be widely applicable, but not too generic that it doesn't make sense for the situation, definitely is an art form.
Yeah. Next up, I noticed that due to the fate points mechanic, there were a lot fewer overall failures in the system. From a GM perspective, how did running a game like Fate compare to something like Cowboy World? Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, Cowboy World kind of felt a little more in my control. I felt like I had the reins a little more on Cowboy World than I did in
Yeah.
Fate proper. I didn't mean to do that.
That's why you're so good at this.
which I think lent itself to that Cowboy World was much shorter. Like the two times we played in Cowboy World, they were smaller, tighter arcs, and therefore me kind of retaining more control over them worked in our favor. It didn't have time to get to become a bummer or to get frustrating for the players or anything. This, I think, if there had been a similar lack of autonomy from the players over this amount of time, it probably would have gotten annoying for them and for me. How did playing Clockwinders compare to previous Fate systems like Fate of Cthulhu?
I was wondering, Fate of Cthulhu and Fate, mechanically the same game. I wonder if is this question about the setting, the environment, or is it a different game system?
I mean, I think many Fate, I still don't know what the right term is. I keep using module to refer to Clockwinders, but they do kind of make their own adjustments.
Yeah.
Each of them, like
the corruption and stuff from Cthulhu that you get from
Yeah.
those
so just Powered by the
aspects.
Apocalypse games, everyone has their own little
Flavor.
thing. Okay.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, as a player, largely the same outside of the very obvious setting things. From that one specifically, we didn't have necessarily that corruption unless we were going to lean into the ether being corrupting, and we just didn't really do that. But largely speaking, had the same vibe as far as I'm concerned of, trying to rules lawyer a little bit to, get the edge and using those aspects, all of the invoking and stuff like that felt very similar. Just wildly different vibe, I think, because of the setting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think of it compared to when we did I Hunt
Oh, yeah.
in the Omniverse Chronicles, and I think that goes back to kind of what Jake said about it being a much shorter arc. That was an 8-episode kind of story, and having it run by somebody that's their thing.
Yeah.
was interesting. I feel like it was pretty similar, like Tass said, with having the aspects and figuring out how to apply those in situations. I feel like that game had more scene aspects that we tried to incorporate, but it was also just a story that we didn't have as much say in how things went because it was very short and being run for us. So I think it's just differences in that way of not thinking about who is this character, because also I played myself in that one.
Sure. And I think it's interesting that came up again. I think we had more scene aspects to play because every time we went to a location, that board flipped and there were.
Yeah.
I think that goes into your whole thing about I don't want to codify things until I have to. So of course you wouldn't give us scene aspects for the castle that we go into because you want us to be oh, there's a bunch of windows here. You don't want to tell us there's a bunch of windows in that room. You want it to be relevant before it's true.
Yeah, unless there's like the hidden mechanic, for lack of a better term, that like, you know, is predicated on like if electricity striking a lever activates the monster, I'm going to tell you that there's a thunderstorm. Like that would be more relevant. But like, yeah, a lot of the time I want you guys to have the freedom to decide what the scene is like. I will say I feel like Clockwinders, like compared to Fate of Cthulhu, I think Clockwinders had a little less polish on it. Which, you know, is not a dig or anything, but there were some things that like we had to interpret, or a little bit of information that would conflict with itself elsewhere in the book that made it kind of more challenging, not from a mechanical side, but just from like the existence of this world, like what is true in this world.
Yeah,
angle.
Like our understanding of the lore of the world sometimes was like, oh, they don't have history from 25 years ago, but no one remembers the war. When was this war?
Yeah, so
what is a generation?
I kind of like, you know, one of the things I wonder is just like, was generation the wrong term? Because like that was what was in the book, was like, it's been like, you know, 4 generations since this thing happened. And it's like, generation's not actually a lot of time. It seems like this maybe should have been like centuries or millennia or something. You know, I get the time scale of Clockwinders was weird, and we riffed on it a lot. Yeah, about just like books don't exist apparently. So yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, Fate of Cthulhu, and I didn't play iHunt. You know, Cowboy World's not exactly Fate; it's similar. Cowboy World also was a little bit rough around the edges. Fate of Cthulhu, and maybe that's just because we were playing with one of the creators who was an excellent game master. Like, it felt very tight and polished. And
I think it's because it has much more. Fate of Cthulhu doesn't have rails, but it's got closer walls than Clockwinders did.
Yeah. And much of this could just come down to the lack of familiarity I had going into it. Like, it might have just felt more rough and awkward because I didn't know how to play this game as well. Yeah. I still don't, but I didn't then either.
Well, as always, man, this is going to be 2 episodes. So join us next week for the second half of the Q&A. Bye.
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 The Critshow is a Critshow Studios production, edited and produced by Brandon Wentz, with music by Jake Purley. You can find more information about us at thecritshowpodcast.com. To keep up to date with upcoming live shows, contests, and other special events, follow us at The Crit Show on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. For even more weekly content, join us at patreon.com/thecritShow.